New York Football Giants on the road at the Dallas Cowboys. This is anywhere from 4.5 to 5.5 in the market. Currently 44.5 your prevailing total in this one. This could be a survivor option for people out there with the Dallas Cowboys as they are home against this Giants team that are, I guess you could there could be a rock fight between the Giants and the Dolphins as to who had the worst offense in week number 1. They could sit there and just, have a fight about that. And then, Noops, I think the troubling thing for me, and you're talking about a guy that had a plus 6.5 ticket on the Giants, so that was a loser for me last week, where my whole point was, okay, let me make the case here for the Giants was, even if Russ is cooked, this defense is so good and this defensive line is so good, they're going to make life terrible on people and yada, 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 and they're always going to at least be close in games, and maybe Russ can figure out how to sneak in a garbage time touchdown and we cover these numbers. The third lowest pressure rate in all the NFL in week number 1 was this defensive line for the Giants. Third lowest. Like, the one thing that I was hanging my hat on is they didn't do it at all. And so I've got to see it with my eyes. Like, maybe is there a world that exists with all that talent that maybe this defensive line isn't as good as I thought? So again, I'm not going to overreact here, but now I am in the, maybe I need to wait and see because maybe I did overrate this defensive line coming into the season.
It is really tough to, again, like you said, coming in, all the information, everything we know tells us with Brian Burns, with Dexter Lawrence, adding Abdul Carter, this Giants defensive pass rush should be really great. Now, going back and looking at that game, I think a lot of that spoke more to Jaden Daniels, someone who is really difficult to pressure, someone who moves around very well. Coming into this specific game, I think we're going to have a little bit of a bounce back spot against the Cowboys line. Not quite as good against a quarterback in Dak Prescott, not nearly as mobile and agile. And what I see here is really a game that should be pretty stinking ugly. I mean, the Cowboys come out, they score, I think it was 3 of their 4 first drives against the Eagles, maybe even 4 of their first 4 drives against the Eagles, and that's it. Basically just sort of packed it away. We're unable to really get any more points here. And unless Dexter Lawrence, goes out and spits on somebody like Jalen Carter did, I think the Cowboys are really going to struggle to run the ball this week. You're not going to see Javonte Williams get 1-2 touchdowns early in the game here. At the same time, like you said, the Giants offense just looked terrible. I mean, Russ at this point, it's check down. Occasionally he'll try to air one out, but I'm not even sure he has that in him at this point. So everything I look at this game screams under to me. 2 division opponents know each other very well. 2 defenses that line up very well against the offenses here. The total sits at 44.5. I had this closer to 41.5, maybe 42 as I try to regress towards the market here a little bit. I'm just going to take the under and try to make some money on what I think should be a really ugly football game.
Let me throw my tinfoil hat on here for you, and you can give me a yes or no on this. We just blindly play all the Russell Wilson unders because Jackson Dart ends up getting inserted in the second half. What do we, because that was not a ringing endorsement of Russell Wilson by any stretch. One, it's like, we'll evaluate. And then it's like they come out and say, okay, we're going to play him. And then he clarified, we're going to play him this week. We're going to start him this week. He did not say he is our starter. It was like, we are going to start him this week. What do you think the chances are we see Jackson Dart this week?
I like this quite a bit. And what I would say is I would even add on to this idea. So if the thought is the Cowboys come out, really beat up on the Giants early here, Russell Wilson gets benched at halftime, you take all the Russell Wilson unders, your pass attempts, your pass completions, your pass yards, passing touchdowns, put those all together and slide in some Cowboys alt spreads in the first half here. They can be a little tough to find. Again, you're going to have to do a little bit of work here on this one, but look for Cowboys like first half -6.5, -9.5 if you can find it, something like that. And I just love where your head is here, Matt, because this is what you have to do with some of these parlays here. And I know parlay can be a dirty word from a betting perspective, but a parlay is only as good as the bets you put in there. They're all good bets. The parlay just makes them better. And again, everything you're telling me here, when I think about that narrative, I really like this. Now, to pour maybe a little cold water on it, I don't know if we're going to see the Giants again in week 2 in Dallas against a divisional opponent try to bring in Jackson Dart here kind of in the middle of what would hypothetically be a disaster at this point. But I like where your head's at. I think there's definitely going to be some value here in the coming weeks of trying to do something like that. Take all your Russell Wilson unders, take the opponent first half alt spread, put them all together. At some point, we're going to come out of halftime and Russell Wilson will not have a helmet in his hands.
I got all 10 of my entries through in Survivor. I think I'm going to put 4 or 5 of them on Dallas this week. You start to look at their future value. I'm not going to say it's none. It's not great. I mean, like, yes, they have games against the Jets and they have game against Carolina, but those are on the road. Do you want to be backing this team on the road and Survivor for your Survivor life? Like, probably not. And you start looking way out, and I just don't love really any of the other spots here for Dallas. And so it's kind of like I either use them on some of the entries this week, or I just burn the team, and then I'm down a team, right? Like, I'm not going to use them again at all, and so I'd rather not just completely burn a team when I do have an option to use them. So it's like you said, sometimes you got to hold your nose. I think I'm just going to have to hold my nose here on Dallas. Not a team I'm in love with, but I think here against this version of the Giants, I might just have to roll the dice here, and so I think Dallas is going to end up in like I said, 4 or 5 of these entries of mine.
Yeah, I like where you're thinking. As we said, kind of, and we keep reminding you throughout the show, just think about the size of your pool. But Dallas is a really nice contrarian pick this week. I don't think we'll see very many people, again, even contrarians, starting to look at this. It's a good angle.